the second chapter of Colossians, verse 1. For I wish to know what a great struggle I have for you and those in Laodicea. This Laodicea or Laodicea, which is the congregation that we see in Revelation 3, which represents the congregation of the very end of times, the type of doctrine that would be taught, which is pretty much prosperity, the prosperity doctrine. Says, and to the messenger of the assembly in Laodicea, write the Amen. You see, this is the word that we say at the end of a prayer. So one of the reasons why this appears here and not in the other letters to the congregations is because this is the last of the 7 congregations that represents the end times when everything is ending. So the Amen. Also, he's saying obviously he is the certainly the yes to every prayer. Then he says the trustworthy and true witness, because he comes as a witness, for he already came as the truth and the lawyer. The beginning of the creation of Elohim. The beginning of the creation of Elohim, which we just read in Colossians. Matter of fact, you see here Colossians 1:15. We just read it, and we see how this congregation, this doctrine, and what is being said here connects with our time, as well as with the book that we are reading of Colossians. The beginning of the creation of Elohim says this: I know your works, that you are neither cold nor hot. I would that you were cold or hot. So because you are lukewarm and neither cold nor hot, I am going to vomit you out of my mouth. Because you say, I am rich, I am, and I am made rich. We just saw in the previous chapter how Yahweh taught us the true riches, the eternal riches, which is the good news of Mashiach, the good news of the kingdom. Because you say, rich I am, and I am made rich and need none at all, and do not know that you are wretched and pitiable and poor and blind and naked. I advise you to buy from me gold refined in the fire, so the kingdom through testing, so that you become rich, truly rich, and white garments, the resurrection, so that you become dressed, so that the shame of your nakedness, your sins, might not be shown, and anoint your eyes with ointment, so that you see. As many as I love, I reprove and discipline. So be ardent and repent. See, I stand at the door and knock. If anyone hears my voice and opens the door, I shall come in to him and dine with him and he with me. This connects with Isaiah 65:11, where it talks about how they rejected Yahweh to go and set up a table for God. God is fortune in Hebrew, the fortune that they were worshiping, this doctrine. That's why they claim to be rich. So now Yahweh is saying that he is at the door, and if they prepare a table for him, then he will come and restore all things. See, I stand at the door and knock. If anyone hears my voice and opens the door, I shall come in to him and dine with him and he with me. To him who overcomes, I shall give to sit with me on my throne. This is like what we were reading in Shemuel yesterday, how David called Mephibosheth to sit with him, to eat with him. To him who overcomes, I shall give to sit with me on my throne, as I also overcame and sat down with my Father on his throne. He who has an ear, let him hear what the Spirit says to the assemblies. So let's go back. For I wish you to know that what a great struggle I have for you and those in Laodicea, and for as many as have not seen my face in the flesh. For he had preached to many, he had sent letters, but some of those believers in those many places did not know Paul in person. So it says, and for as many as have not seen my face in the flesh, in order that their hearts might be encouraged, being knit together in love, and to all riches, once again, to all riches of the entire confirmation of understanding, to a true knowledge of the secret of Elohim and of the Father, and of the Messiah. So look how important all riches, the true riches, are the entire confirmation of understanding. That understanding that leads us to confirm that which Yahweh has told us. To a true knowledge, for there is a fake knowledge, of course, for in this reality, there's a copy of everything that is real. To a true knowledge of the secret of Elohim and of the Father and of the Messiah. We could say here Elohim is plural, so it's referring to both the Father and the Messiah. We could also say the secret of Elohim first and last, as the Father and the Messiah, last and first. And even we could say the secret regarding the title Elohim and those who held it, separated from the true Father of all, Yahweh, and the Messiah, Yahushua, in whom are hidden all the treasures of wisdom and knowledge. So once again, in whom are hidden all the treasures of wisdom and knowledge, the importance of both wisdom and knowledge. Whom are hidden, Yahushua is, remember how Shua, other than meaning salvation, also means riches. So that's why it is talking so much about how there is so much richness. There's a treasure hidden in Mashiach which people cannot see, obviously, because it is hidden. You first need to accept him in order to get the key to understand. So in whom are hidden all the treasures of wisdom and knowledge. So anything that we want to know or understand, we just ask him. Obviously, then we do our part in the sense of getting ready to study or act according to what he reveals to us, what he brings to us after having prayed. And this I say, so that no one deceives you with enticing words. And this I say, so that no one deceives you with enticing words. The importance of wisdom and knowledge, so that no one can deceive you. That's why there are so many people who are deceived, thinking that all they need is grace, not understanding what grace means, really, and rejecting all wisdom and knowledge because of, well, the flesh, the inclination to evil. In whom are hidden all the treasures of wisdom. And this I say to you, so that no one deceives you with enticing words. For though I am absent in the flesh, yet I am with you in spirit, rejoicing to see your good order and the steadfastness of your belief in Mashiach. See how it says here, for though I am absent in the flesh, yet I am with you in spirit. We know that Paul was a human, yet he's saying this. And my point is that even though we are so far apart, the fact that we are able to use technology in order to talk to each other in real time and even see each other is kind of like being together. And since we are in one spirit, then even though we are not together in the flesh, we are together in the spirit. So we are gathering, and therefore we are a congregation, even if we have to connect this way. For though I am absent in the flesh, yet I am with you in spirit, rejoicing to see your good order and steadfastness of your belief in Messiah. Therefore, as you accepted Messiah Yahushua, the sovereign, walk in him. How important. Like I always say, Yahushua is not the destiny. Yahushua did not say, I am the chair. He said, I am the way. So we must walk in him. So we must really act according to what we believe, so that our walk goes the way it should be. Having been rooted and built up in him, and established in the belief as you were taught, overflowing in it with thanksgiving. Having been rooted and built up in him and established in the belief, as you were taught, overflowing in it with thanksgiving. See to it that no one makes a prey of you through philosophy and empty deceit. This has been a bit present when it comes to our studies. Mainly, well, we study a bit more in Spanish. So I was talking the other day how there's a brother from the congregation who has been reading and seeing a lot of philosophy stuff, and it's a bit confused now, sadly. And it is this that is being said here, what everybody should be aware of. That's why we need that wisdom and knowledge, understanding, so that empty philosophy may not derail us. See to it that no one makes a prey of you through philosophy and empty deceit. They make a prey of people. I was also talking to some of the congregation about a old lady who is in a lot of need and has a son with certain mental issues, yet he is the one taking care of her. She has daughters, but they forgot about her. And she gets a certain amount of money every month from the government, if I'm not mistaken. And that's the money that she uses to pay for her food of the month. So she gets the food from the store and then she pays the store every month. Yet this month, she made a mistake. So by mistake, she transferred the money to the pastor of the church of her town instead of transferring it to the store. It was a mistake. So she reached to the church and asked the pastor to please, if he could give the money back, and they refused. So imagine knowing the situation, and even without knowing any situation, if somebody tells you, I gave you the money by mistake, could you please give it back? Imagine not giving it back. And imagine that being a pastor of a church. So many things are wrong with that picture, and it is sad that it is coming as well. And we were talking about how it is sad and surprising, but it shouldn't be because of the doctrine in which they are. And that's why all of this was written. See to it that no one makes a prey of you through philosophy and empty deceit, according to the tradition of men. Remember, for instance, in Judaism, they follow tradition. The Talmud is filled with tradition. That's what they follow. They don't follow Torah, really. They follow the tradition, what they were told. In Christianity, they also follow tradition, simply a different type of traditions, pagan traditions. Still, they're both wrong, of course. The letter kills. So those traditions of the Jewish people, which they wrote as the Talmud, is falsehood, as well as the traditions that they added to Catholicism and then Christianity kept. So see to it that no one makes a prey of you through philosophy and empty deceit. Empty deceit. How important to understand also this, because since people don't want to have to do any work in order to gain knowledge, wisdom, understanding, they don't want to read in general, people. They accept empty words because they don't want to think about what they are being told. So since they don't want to go into what they're being told, they stay with the appearance of things, the outside, and therefore don't realize that that which they are receiving is completely empty. Their teachings are empty, but they don't care because they don't know better, because they chose emptiness. They chose not to know. They chose grace, as they call it. Remember that we do receive the favor, but grace is a daughter of Zeus, and Zeus is Satan. So See to it that no one makes a prey of you through philosophy and empty deceit, according to the tradition of men, according to the elementary matters of the world, and not according to Messiah. So according to the world, according to material things, according to the flesh, that's how they convince people and lead them astray, and not according to Messiah. Because in him dwells all the completeness of Elohimness bodily, is all that is heavenly in a body, because in him dwells all the completeness of Elohimness bodily, and you have been made complete in him. So if he is completeness itself, by attaining him and getting his ruach within us, then we become complete. So Yahweh plays eternity within us. We must, as him, make a contraction within that eternity in our heart in order for that space to be filled with the light of Mashiach and therefore become complete. And you have been made complete in him, who is the head of all principality and authority. The head of all principality and authority. No matter who they are, they will have to answer to him for whatever they do wrong. In him, you were also circumcised. So we see how the circumcision, the true circumcision, comes through our belief in Mashiach, not through cutting a part of the body. And it represents cutting the flesh, cutting the extra flesh, or the inclination to do evil, that part of the flesh that makes us want to do things that we shouldn't. In whom you were also circumcised with a circumcision not made with hands, in the putting off of the body of the sins of the flesh by the circumcision of Mashiach. That is the true circumcision, I repeat, our belief in Mashiach. Our faith in him and respect for him and what he did keeps us from doing things against his will. So it is that which cuts with all of that we shouldn't deal. Having been buried with him in immersion. So when one is immersed in water, represents to have been buried with him. So it represents the death of that person for him to now resurrect with him. Having been buried with him in immersion, in which you also were raised with him through the belief in the working of Elohim, who raised them from the dead. And you being dead in your trespasses, right? For anybody who has sinned was already dead. For the payment of sin is death. So, and you being dead in your trespasses and the uncircumcision of your flesh, for he was talking to Gentiles, he has made alive together with him, having forgiven you all trespasses. It doesn't say, and then cutting your flesh also. The circumcision is through the Ruach, through Mashiach. And you being dead in your trespasses and the uncircumcision of your flesh, he has made alive together with him, having forgiven you all trespasses. Having blotted out that which was written by hand against us. Having blotted out that which was written by hand against us. So now, not by the Father, but by the hand of men, by the dogmas, which we'll read in a moment, and also Ephesians 2:15. Let me read that one. Having abolished in his flesh the enmity, the Torah of the commands in dogma, meaning the wrong understanding of the Torah according to the letter, according to the flesh, and not according to the spirit, so as to create in himself one renewed man from the two, thus making shalom, completeness. So, having blotted out that which was written by hand against us, by the dogmas, which stood against us, and he has taken it out of the way, having nailed it to the stake. So by him fulfilling all the law, even according to the letter, he had it in the flesh. So when he was nailed to the tree, to the cross, he was nailing that interpretation according to the letter of the Torah. So through him, we died to it. So he doesn't have an accusation against us. And I repeat, the dogmas, the wrong interpretation of the Torah, which they held as true, but didn't keep Mashiach alive, for they killed him. Obviously, Yahweh resurrected him, and I repeat, it is because he fulfilled all of the law, which says that if you fulfill it, you live. Having stripped the principalities and the authorities, because he made the authorities and principalities, gave them all the power, and then they rebelled. So Mashiach came to take away that authority from them by taking away the power that they had to accuse humanity in order to keep that unending cycle, that infinite cycle of souls having to come and die. Having stripped the principalities and the authorities, he made a public display of them, having prevailed over them in it. So when Mashiach was dying, people were making fun of him, mocking him, because they were blind. But those in the Ruach were able to see what was happening there. The authorities and principalities were losing their power. Let no one therefore judge you in eating or in drinking. Let no one therefore judge you in eating or in drinking, or in respect of a festival or a new month or Shabbat. That is not something that we should fight over. We should obviously fulfill this according to the true Torah, but we shouldn't accept the judgment from a person who follows the Torah according to the flesh or the letter, for they won't understand it. And for instance, they will follow the new moon. They will follow the wrong calendar. They will begin the Shabbat before its time. They will have the feast on a different time, thinking of different things. They will be angry because of what you eat or drink, because they have a strict diet according to the letter. Let no one therefore judge you in eating or in drinking, or in respect of a festival or a new month or Shabbat, which are a shadow of what is to come, but the body of the Messiah. So this is hugely important, which are a shadow of what is to come, right? A shadow is something that is just a figure without detail, made of lack of light, right? Darkness. So that's what these things were. Not eating certain things, not drinking certain things, the feasts themselves, the new month, the Shabbat, they were all a shadow. They were not the real thing. They were a representation for us to then understand the real thing. So the Shabbat of 24 hours every seventh day of the week, that is a shadow. It's a representation. It's just the figure. But you know, there is the figure, which is the shadow, and then is the original, the one casting the shadow. So the shadow is darkness, is not real. And if the light passes, the shadow changes. And depending on where the light is, it even disappears. So once the light manifests in the greatest way, then there will be no shadow of things, because they won't be needed. We won't need an image of something, because that something will be manifested already. My point is that nowadays everything is an image of that which is invisible. But in that time, we will have eyes to see that which is invisible, in the sense that everything will become one, which are a shadow of what is to come, but the body of the Messiah. So whenever and this is a very important verse, or couple verses to keep in mind when you talk to somebody who claims to believe in the new covenant, because talking to a Jewish person, obviously that won't make any sense to them. They will use it against you. But if you're talking to a Christian or to somebody who claims to believe in the new covenant, but sees the Shabbatot as the Jewish people, sees the feasts, or fulfills them according to the false calendar and according to the Jewish people, if they judge you, critique you because of what you eat or drink, you can bring this verse, and that should be enough. Sadly, to those who are within that lack of understanding, most will remain because of that same factor, the lack of understanding. So, but my point is, this is a very great argument when it comes to those type of people, many of whom believe to be super smart and super fulfilling the commandments, yet don't realize that that which they are fulfilling and for which they feel so proud are not really the true commandments, and it's not really bringing anything good to their soul, because they are shadows of what is to come, but the body of the Messiah. So the body is of the Messiah. The shadow that is cast by the body, that was everything that was seen in this reality. The feast, eat this, not eat that. The Shabbat, etc. They were shadows, but the body is Messiah. The fulfillment of everything is the Messiah. So if we have the Messiah, we have the fulfillment. If we don't have the Messiah, no matter what we do, we are not fulfilling a thing. I hope that's understood, because it is very important. Let no one deprive you of the prize. One who takes delight in false humility. This is something that has been very present as well. I have mentioned it a lot. I don't know if you have noticed it, but mainly because I am reading a book and they mentioned it, the separation between true humility, false humility, showing how there are so many people who are, they know that the humility is good, but they don't have it, so they fake it. And that's pretty much, well, a lot of people. So let no one deprive you of the prize. One who takes delight in false humility and worship of messengers. This is interesting because they worship angels. And most of the people, if not all of the people who worship angels, they have false humility. False humility is something that you see a lot in religion. People who are really, really religious, they tend to be, well, to have false humility. They, you know how they act. For instance, look at the Pope, false humility. So takes delight in false humility and worship of messengers, taking his stand on what he has not seen, puffed up by his fleshly mind. This is huge, because that false humility is actually being puffed up. Even if their body is all like this, thinking and claiming they are nothing, they're worth nothing, it's just so that people tell them, no, you're worth a lot. Why would you say that? No, you this, you're that. Don't say that. You're so good. You're so humble. Right? Like when people say, I am humble, that is kind of like the sign of not being humble. And there are a lot of people who do that. So we must be careful not to let our flesh take over and fool us to think that we are humble if we're not. We should really know who we are, our value in Mashiach, and therefore also the value of others, and love others as ourselves. So Let no one deprive you of the prize. One who takes delight in false humility and worship of messengers, taking his stand on what he has not seen. They are worshiping angels, yet they haven't seen them. And even if they have seen an angel, they haven't seen the true image. They saw what the angel wanted to show. That's why Satan can appear as an angel of light. The person is seeing an illusion. That is not reality. Therefore, they are worshiping something which they don't know. Puffed up by his fleshly mind. They are actually puffed up, thinking they are humble. It is their fleshly mind which makes them worship that which they don't know instead of seeking and understanding. So, puffed up by his fleshly mind and not holding fast to the head. As we saw, the head is Yahushua, the Messiah. So they don't hold fast to the head. So they get lost pretty much. Not holding fast to the head. They end up worshiping angels. If you don't respect the head, if you don't honor the head, you may end up thinking you can be the head or you are the head. That's why we always need to understand that Yahweh and Yahushua are above us at all times, and that will keep us humble, should keep us humble. But Satan was the one who said, I will be like. So he said that he wanted to be the head, like the head. And not holding fast to the head, from whom all the body, nourished and knit together by joints and ligaments, grows with the growth of Elohim. So if you are not connected to the head, which is Mashiach, you will be losing growth. You will be losing the capability to grow. You will lose all nourishment, all power, all strength. Even if you have success in this reality, for remember, this is just an illusion. Eventually you will see reality, and it won't be pretty if you are not holding fast to the head. If then you died with Mashiach from the elementary matters, if then you died with Mashiach from the elementary matters of the world, why, as though living in the world, do you subject yourselves to dogmas? Once again, if you die to this reality, to the flesh, why do you go back and subject yourselves to those commandments of men, those wrong interpretations according to the flesh? Why, as though living in the world, do you subject yourselves to dogmas? Like, do not touch, do not taste, do not handle. Yahushua, through the truth, made us free. And also Paul, who is saying this, also says that all things are lawful, but not all things are edifying. So we must judge correctly according to the judgment received through the Ruach, wisdom, knowledge, and understanding. So why, as though living in the world, do you subject yourselves to dogmas? Do not touch, do not taste, do not handle, which are all to perish with use. People who do this, if they have reason, a little bit of intellect and logic, the more they do them, they will realize there is no actual true purpose for it when it comes to the soul or the spirit, which are all to perish with use. So this type of commandments, dogmas, are temporal, for there were shadows. They were going to pass when the light would manifest and cover the whole of creation. There won't be any shadows, so there won't be any images or symbols. There will only be reality. So just like everything in this reality, with time, dissolves, breaks down, so also those type of commandments: do not touch, do not taste, do not handle, which are all to perish with use. Just like if you have a car, the more you use it, eventually it will perish, and you will have to take it to the mechanic. But even then, sometimes He will get a moment when it won't work for anything. You will have to buy another one. Same thing with this type of commandments are of this reality, so they perish with use, which are all to perish with use, according to the commands and teachings of men. All commandments that come from men, the interpretations of the flesh, even if they took them from the Torah, will perish once you do them. You will realize they have no true purpose other than representing something higher. These indeed have an appearance of wisdom. This is important. This type of commandments indeed have an appearance of wisdom. They appear to be correct. They appear to have a certain wisdom behind them, but it's only appearance. True wisdom is to be able to see through that which is outside. These indeed have an appearance of wisdom in self-imposed worship. Self-imposed worship, humiliation and harsh treatment of the body, of no value at all. So some people give their bodies harsh treatment. They humiliate themselves, and that in itself is fake humility mentioned earlier. For through this, they are hoping to get attention from the people and for the people to say that they are saints, that they are righteous because they treat their bodies harsh, because they humiliate themselves, hitting themselves in the back and all of that they would do certain traditions. Self-imposed worship. Yahweh didn't ask for that type of worship, but they self-impose it. So they feel like great worshipers, even though they are worshiping themselves through that which they made up. Humiliation and harsh treatment of the body, of no value at all. No value at all. Only for satisfaction of the flesh. So some will say, how can harsh treatment of the body can satisfy the flesh? The flesh of the religious person who wants to be seen as the one who has made more rectification with the punishment of his own body. For instance, those whom Mashiach was referring to when saying that they go to the widows' houses to pray only to eat everything they have. Those who pray in public so that they receive honor from the people. Those who fast and don't wash themselves so that everybody knows what they are doing, because they are receiving their payment through what the people say of them, that which they are actually seeking, the satisfaction of the flesh, but it has no value at all for the soul. Even though they do harsh treatment, humiliation, and self-imposed worship, it's all fake humility, for they are puffed up in reality because of the flesh. That has no value at all. Remember, Mashiach said that his burden is light and his yoke is easy. I hope that's clear.